For the press. Hey, whoa. Hush up a second, okay? I got one more thing to say. I've just signed another $200 million drawdown from the Department of Defense for Ukraine, and that'll be coming quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
President Biden, are you mad at me?
This is my video update on this Wednesday morning, December the 13th. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off, of course, with Elensky's trip to the United States. And this is from CNN. Republicans don't budge on Ukraine aid after Zelensky meeting. So Elensky, he met with senators, Schumer, McConnell, and a bunch of senators. He gave a speech to all of them about how he needs more money. And then he met with House Speaker Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson, he said that he supports Zelensky and he supports freedom and blah, blah, blah. But then Mike Johnson said, we've seen no strategy, we've seen no plan. And it was pretty much Mike Johnson telling the Biden White House that this December, they're not going to be getting $61 billion. That was pretty much what Mike Johnson was telling the Biden White House, telling the reporters that he was speaking to when he finished his meeting with Zelensky. So Zelensky eventually met with Biden in the Oval Office. The media was there as well. And Biden, he gave Zelensky a present. He told the media, shh. He said, shh, quiet, everybody. And he said, Zelensky, don't worry about not getting the support that you were hoping for. We couldn't get you the $61 billion. At least that's what it looks like. Maybe we'll see a surprise in the next day or two, and the $61 billion will go through. But Biden's like, don't worry. Things are not looking so good, but I've got a present for you. And Biden's like, shh, told the reporters, quiet. And he said, Zelensky, I give to you $200 million. Here you go. And then Biden laughed. That's what happened. No joke. A reporter asked Biden when Biden gave Elensky the money for $200 million. A reporter asked Biden in the Oval Office if he wants Ukraine to win the war against Russia. Reporters were yelling, and they're like, Biden, do you want Ukraine to win the war against Russia? And Biden laughed. Biden was like, like a sinister, weird, evil, demented laugh. Almost as if Biden was like, I couldn't really care anymore. They lost this war. I just don't want the thing to collapse as I run for re-election. At least I hope I'm running for re-election. Who knows? Maybe Biden has no idea what the hell is going on. But that was bizarre. That was a very bizarre moment during Zelensky's trip to the nation's capital. He was hoping for $61 billion, and he leaves the United States with $200 million. At least that's the way it looks. Once again, something could happen in the next 2 or 3 days, and maybe he will get the $61 billion or a different amount. But as things stand, Elensky's leaving the United States with 200 million instead of 60 billion. It's like a teenager asking his parents for money to go out with his buddies, and he asks his folks for 20 bucks to go out, and the parents give the teenager like 5 cents. Here you go, son. Here's a dime. Here's 5 cents. Have fun tonight. Teenager's like, what am I going to do with this? You know, I mean, big difference between 200 million and 60 billion. That's for sure. That's for sure. But you know what this money was? This money was go away money. That's what it was. Go away money. Here's 200 million. Now go away. That's what this payment was. And if Elensky, like, really loved Ukraine, really wanted Ukraine to win, really was looking after his country, if Elensky had any pride or dignity or balls, cojones, then Elensky would have taken that 200 million and just shoved it right back at Biden and said, I don't want 200 million, man. I came here for 60 billion. You told me, Joe, you promised me that you would give me money for as long as it takes. That's what Boris told me. Boris flew to Kiev. He told me, you're going to give me all the money and all the weapons that I need in order to tear up the ceasefire agreement that I negotiated with the Putin, and you were going to support me for as long as it takes. And now I'm coming here, and you're going to give me 200 million. Take your 200 million and shove it. That's what a real leader would have done. But Elensky didn't do that, which tells you everything you need to know. But that money, that is go away money. Oh boy, and you know, Elensky, he's going to have to go back to Kiev with 200 million. There's going to be some very upset Banderites when he returns to Kiev. Some very upset Banderites. But I believe that come January, February, he's going to get something. It looks like this time around, I think Schumer even said that it doesn't look good for the 60 billion. But I imagine come January, come February, they'll give Ukraine something. 5 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion. I doubt it'll be 60 billion, but I imagine it'll be somewhere around the range of 10 to 30 billion or something like that, if I had to take a guess, around January or February. I mean, I think that's the safe analysis in all of this. If I had to analyze the situation as it is right now, I would say that the safe, conservative analysis is that Sullivan and Blinken and all of these guys, they understand that Ukraine has lost this war. There's no way they're going to win this thing, but they don't want Ukraine to collapse as the 2024 campaign begins. Come January, February, that's it. Everything's about 2024 in the United States. Everything's about 2024, and then you're going to have Orange Man running. Trump is going to be running, and everyone's going to flip out. So, I mean, it's all going to be about 2024, right? And the news cycle is going to be obsessed with Trump. Orange Man bad. It's going to be 24/7. So if you're Sullivan, you're like, look, we can't have Ukraine collapse. You know, you're the campaign guru. You're Jake Sullivan, Wonder Boy, Jake Sullivan. So you're like, look, we can't have another Afghanistan debacle. We can't have the Elensky regime collapse. So let's get 20, 30 billion to Ukraine, keep them afloat for a year. Hopefully, we won't have any really terrible news from the front lines, and no one can talk about Ukraine. It won't be a big issue as the campaign really revs up. I think that's the conservative analysis. There's the other analysis, which I think is the risky analysis, which I floated out there 2-3 days ago in a video I did. And the risky analysis, let's say the conspiracy theory analysis, is that This was all theater. This was all theater. Guys like Jake Sullivan and Blinken and who else? Let's say Kirby and Austin and all of these guys. They said, look, Ukraine is lost this thing, and so let's fly Elensky over to the U.S. Let's tell Milei to invite him to Argentina. That gives us a good excuse to get Elensky to the U.S. We'll make it seem like we're trying really, really hard to prop up Project Ukraine and to get the $60 billion to Elensky. But we know that there's not going to be a $60 billion to Elensky, and we know that the Republicans are gonna block this. And when Ukraine collapses because it doesn't have any money, we can just blame it on the Republicans. Mike Johnson, Trump, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We can blame it on the Republicans. And I bet you a lot of the rhinos, like the Mitch McConnells and the Romneys and all of these guys, they'll be happy to blame it on the America First Republicans as well. So the Uniparty can also dig into the America First Republicans, and they could say, Ukraine collapsed because you guys didn't get them the money. We had Russia. I can see the narrative right now. We had Russia right where we wanted them. We had them. Their army was depleted. Ukraine had taken back 50% of the territory. Putin was running out of weapons. Navalny was surging in the polls for the Russian elections. The Russian economy is in tatters. We had Russia right where we wanted them. All we needed was $61 billion, and damn it, you Republicans, you America First MAGA Republicans, you blocked the $61 billion, and now look. This is why you should vote for Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom, whoever, or Nikki Haley, whatever, because they would have never jeopardized Ukraine's victory. The victory was so close. It was so close. We had a bridgehead. We had a bridgehead in Kherson, and that bridgehead was going to march all the way to Crimea. We had a plan. We had a new strategy to take Crimea, and you guys ruined it. I can see that narrative, and you have the mainstream media; they're going to get on board with that narrative. So I can see that as maybe another possible scenario as to what happened with Zelensky going to the U.S. Zelensky was just being used. He's just a prop. He has no idea what's going on. Maybe Biden didn't even know what's going on. Maybe Biden's a prop in all of this as well. Though his laugh was very sinister. His laugh led me to believe that Biden knows. Maybe he knows what's up. Maybe, just maybe. He still has a little bit of mind left. And maybe, just maybe, he knows that Elensky's being played. So maybe this was all one big, theater. This was all theater. Use Elensky, fly him over, and we'll make it seem like we really want to get money to Ukraine, but let the whole thing collapse and we can pin it on the Republicans. So that's a possibility as well. Let the Europeans deal with it afterwards. So, if you're Trump, if you're the Trump campaign, you got to start like yesterday, putting out the message that the Ukraine is absolutely connected to Biden and to the Democrats. You got to put out the message that Project Ukraine was the centerpiece of Biden's presidency. And you can see that Donald Trump Jr. is starting to do that. Very, very smart of Donald Trump Jr. because recently he's been putting out a lot of tweets connecting Biden to Ukraine. I mean, we all know that Ukraine was the centerpiece of Biden's foreign policy. But Donald Trump, he's putting out a lot of tweets making sure that the American people understand that Biden and Ukraine are they're like one, That was Biden's number one concern, his number one issue for his presidency was Project Ukraine. And if you're the Trump campaign, you got to make sure that everyone understands that, because the Democrats, they're going to the Biden White House, Jake Sullivan, they're going to look to pin the collapse of Ukraine on America First Republicans and on Trump. You know that's what they're going to do, and they're going to have the help of the entire mainstream media to do that. So that could be what's going on. I'll still say that most likely a conservative analysis of the situation is that they are trying to get money to Project Ukraine, and they want to just keep Project Ukraine afloat for the next year. They don't want it to collapse over the next year. But maybe, just maybe, they're like, just let the whole thing collapse and pin it on the Republicans, and let's play theater here. Let's make it seem like we want to help Elensky, but we don't really care. We know the Republicans are going to block the money, and we can blame them for it. And talking about narrative shifts, CNN, they put out an update with the title, Biden says the U.S. will support Ukraine as long as we can, an apparent shift from previous language. This is coming from CNN, everybody. CNN is reporting this. They are saying U.S. President Joe Biden has long vowed American support for Ukraine will persist as long as it takes. But on Tuesday, Biden appeared to revise that commitment, saying in a joint news conference that Ukrainian President Zelensky that the U.S. would continue to supply Ukraine with critical weapons and equipment as long as we can. As long as we can. We've gone from as long as it takes to as long as we can. And this is CNN's reporting. CNN spotted this, and they reported on this. Something is up. Something is up. The Democrats, they want to drop Elensky. They want to drop Elensky. Remember Rocky 3? When Rocky fought Clubber Lang and Apollo Creed was like, drop this guy like a bad habit. Remember that line from Apollo? One of the best characters in all of cinema, Apollo Creed. He's like, drop this guy like a bad habit. I think that was Rocky 3. And that's what they want to do. They want to drop Elensky like a bad habit. That's what's going on here. CNN, as long as it takes, and now it's as long as we can. So I wonder if everyone has gotten the memo in the collective West on this narrative shift, because they all got the script to say as long as it takes. Schultz, Trudeau, Annalena, Ursula, for the last year and a half, they have been saying as long as it takes in just about every speech about Project Ukraine. So has the memo been sent out that it is now as long as we can? Has that memo been sent out? Are we going to hear Annalena 720i? Is she going to speak to the German media? And is she going to say, we support Ukraine for as long as we can? And then the media is going to be like, Annalena, isn't it as long as it takes? And Annalena is going to be, no, we're doing a 360. Annalena, that's 180, isn't it? 180, 360. No, I think it's 360. She's going to start crunching the numbers. 180, 90, 90 plus 90, 180 times 2, 360. It's 360. We're doing a 360. Or Trudeau. Trudeau's going to be leaving the cinema after going to watch the Barbie movie for like the fifth time. He's going to be leaving the cinema, which is playing Barbie, the movie. And the media is going to be waiting for Trudeau, and they're going to be like, Trudeau, are you going to approve more money for Project Ukraine? And Trudeau's going to be like, thank you very much for the question. I just want to let everybody know that we are going to support Ukraine for as long as we can. Let me be clear, for as long as we can. Yep. Narrative shift. That's what we're seeing happening here. Oh boy. And Zelensky's going to go to Kiev with 200 million. there's going to be some very upset Azov guys, some very upset Budanovs waiting for Elensky. But Elensky, he did manage to get on Fox News. I don't even know if I should be in here, by the way. But there was no gate to enter. Nothing was closed to enter, so I'm here. I think this starts up around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But Elensky did manage to get on Fox News with Brett Baer. Interesting, Elensky speaking to the bear. Interesting. So Brett Baer, he interviewed Elensky, and it looked like Elensky was telling the American people, now get this, maybe he meant something else, I don't know, but in one of the answers that Elensky gave to Brett Baer, he said, and I quote, "Don't build roads, spend all your money on weapons, drones, society, and pensions." And then he said, "We have only one enemy, the Putin." That's pretty much what Elensky said to one of the questions that Brett Baer threw at him. Basically, Elensky telling the American people, don't spend money on roads. Was that what he meant? Don't spend money on roads. Give money to me. Give money to me. Better give money to me than spend money on your roads. I buy many homes. And some homes in America. So you win too. It's a win-win. Like Blinken said, it's a win-win. You give me money. I buy some homes in America. We both win. And a very interesting quote from Elensky. Elensky also told Fox News that, now get this, he told Fox News that Russia has not gained any territory in the last 6 months, during the counteroffensive. I think that's what he said. During the last 6 months, Russia was unable to get any territory, which is a complete lie, because even the New York Times, they put out a report about a month and a half ago with a map as well. And the New York Times said that in Ukraine's counteroffensive, Russia has actually gained more territory. And that was the New York Times that put it out there about a month and a half ago. But Elensky, he went on Fox News and told some pretty big lies. There are reports that Elensky, when he was meeting with the senators, U.S. senators, he actually said that Ukraine is considering conscription of men over 40. So that's according to Bloomberg. And we have other reports where the Ukraine president told senators that Ukraine has an army of 600,000 men. So something doesn't add up, does it? On the one hand, according to Bloomberg, you're saying that you're going to have to mobilize men over 40, which means that you've run out of younger soldiers. Where did they go? What happened to them? But then you come around and you say that your army is 600,000 strong. So, I don't know. Something isn't adding up. Someone's not telling the truth. Or maybe he means that after mobilization, he will have 600,000 troops. Maybe that's what he means. So there are reports, I can't confirm this, but one of the channel's viewers, he sent me a report which claims that while Elensky was in D.C., Zelensky, Syrsky, and Defense Minister Umerov were meeting on the front lines, which is very, very interesting, on the Eastern Front. It's interesting because we were being led to believe that Syrsky and Umerov, the defense minister, were on the side of Elensky and they were against Zelensky. But now it seems we have photos and a report, and I can't confirm this 100%, so this may be wrong, but the photos, and the report is that while Elensky was in the U.S., Zelensky met with Sirsky, and he met with Umerov. If I was the Ukraine president, and this report is indeed true, I would be very, very worried, especially having to return to Kiev with only 200 million. So that's the breakdown. That is an update on Elensky's trip to the U.S. If I was Zelensky, I would go back to Argentina and maybe go house shopping if I was Zelensky. But anyway, by the way, we're getting reports. Since I brought up Argentina, we're getting reports that Milei's doing a 360 when it comes to China. Milei's doing an Annalena 360 when it comes to China. And let me pull up the report here. Argentina's new leader yesterday suddenly changed course to cozy up to China despite the harsh threats of severed relationships that he made before the election. Milei immediately sent a letter to Chinese leader Xi Jinping asking for the renewal of a currency deal, and the foreign ministry is preparing a contract. It was revealed today by the Argentinian press. Both sides win as Argentina needs to pay its IMF bills, and China likes to do deals in yuan as part of a globalist movement to escape the US dollar's unhealthy planet-wide dominance. So Milei is not talking tough against China anymore, is he? Welcome to reality, Mr. President of Argentina. So we had another UN resolution vote, General Assembly vote, non-binding, but the non-binding vote is a good way to get an indicator of global opinion. We're talking about what's happening in Gaza, the war in Israel and Gaza, and the bombing and destruction of Gaza, and in this resolution, this General Assembly resolution, we had a resolution adopted calling for an immediate ceasefire, demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and it passed with a lot of support for an immediate ceasefire. But we did have 23 countries who abstained, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10 countries who voted against a ceasefire. 10 countries who voted against a ceasefire. So let me read you the countries that voted against the ceasefire. Let me get in the shade and read you the countries that voted against an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Once again, this is non-binding, but what it does do is it gets the global opinion, and it further isolates the U.S. It isolates Israel, but more importantly, it isolates the U.S., and it puts a lot of pressure on the U.S. Anyway, the countries that voted against an immediate ceasefire were the United States, Israel, Austria, Czech Republic, Guatemala, Liberia, Micronesia, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, and Paraguay. And we had 23 countries abstain. Let me see if I could read you some of the countries that abstained. Argentina abstained, Bulgaria, Cabo Verde, Cameroon, Georgia, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Lithuania, Malawi, Marshall Islands, Netherlands, Panama, Romania, Slovakia, South Sudan, Togo, Tonga, Ukraine, United Kingdom, Uruguay. So those are I think I got all the countries, most of the countries. Those are the 20 plus countries that abstained. But you had 153 countries vote for an immediate ceasefire. That's a huge number. That is a huge, huge number. And in Europe, I talked about the new prime minister of Poland, Mr. Tusk, Donald Tusk, who has a very interesting family history, a very interesting grandpa, Mr. Tusk. I think his grandpa's history explains a lot of Tusk's hatred of Russia, but we won't go there in this video. But Tusk, one of the first things that he said as prime minister of Poland is he said that it's time to mobilize and fight Russia. Yep, that's Donald Tusk, everybody. Man, what a disaster this guy's going to be. What a disaster this guy's going to be. There are rumors that Tusk wants to appoint Sikorsky as the foreign minister. Sikorsky's the guy that put out the tweet, "Thank you, USA," when Zelensky and Gilligan blew up Nord Stream pipeline. That's Sikorsky. Thank you, USA. And he's also one of the guys that he was instrumental in the overthrow of the Yanukovych government in 2014. He was there on the ground in Maidan in 2014. By the way, I think yesterday was it yesterday or 2 days ago was I think it was the anniversary of the beginning of Maidan, when Cookies Newland went around and passed out cookies and cakes to the Maidan protesters. A big portion of those protesters, I imagine, were being funded by various Soros NGOs. That would just be my guess, but I could be completely wrong. There. But I think Newland said that she didn't pass out cookies. She passed out sandwiches. I think that's what she said, sandwiches or bread or something like that. So we shouldn't call her Cookies Newland. We should call her Sandwiches Newland. Anyway, back to Tusk. So Tusk said, and this is an English translation. I would be very curious to maybe get someone who speaks Polish to really look at the translation, what Tusk said, to try and give a very accurate translation. But I'll give you one of the translations that I found on Twitter X as to what Tusk said. Quote, "We will demand the full mobilization of the West to help Ukraine. I can't listen anymore to politicians who talk about being tired of the situation in Ukraine. An attack on Ukraine is an attack on us all." Wow. An attack on Ukraine is an attack on us all, according to Tusk. And he demands full mobilization. Now, what does he mean by that? That's what I'm curious about. Does he demand full mobilization of Ukrainian citizens? In which case, who are you, Tusk, to demand mobilization of Ukrainian citizens, teenagers, pensioners, women? You're not the president of Ukraine. Is that what he means? Or is Tusk saying full mobilization of Polish citizens? Or does he mean full mobilization of NATO or the European Union? Which one is it? What does he mean by he demands full mobilization? Or is he talking about money? He demands a full mobilization of money and sanctions and stuff like that, and weapons and things like that. So he left it a bit open-ended, but if he's talking about full mobilization of Europe or of Poland, well, I don't know, Tusk, you go first. That's what I would tell Tusk. You go first. You fight the Russians first. And then everyone will follow you, Tusk. I'll tell you this much. Russia would not be fighting any other army with kid gloves like the way they're conducting this special military operation with Ukraine. They're going very, very soft. Any other army that would dare to fight Russia, it's not going to be an SMO, that's for sure. So I don't know what Tusk is smoking, but it's probably some pretty good stuff. So Austria, the Austrian chancellor, he said that Austria is not going to back the EU's fast-track accession talks for Ukraine. The Austrian chancellor said that Austria supports Ukraine entering the European Union. It supports enlargement of the European Union. But the Austrian chancellor said that you can't have a fast track for Ukraine and Moldova while not having a fast track for Bosnia and Georgia. He said that's not fair. So he's like, look, everyone needs to be treated the same, and we need to go through the process in the same exact way. So it looks like Austria, Slovakia, and Hungary now are against a fast track accession talks with Ukraine. And the Austrian chancellor also said something very interesting, along with his comment about accession talks. He said that van der Leyen had not consulted with him or any other EU leaders before issuing a recommendation last month to open formal membership talks with Ukraine, arguing that it had made significant progress in internal reforms to warrant such a step. So basically, the Austrian chancellor, Nehammer, he said that Ursula, she just rammed this whole fast track Ukraine just down everyone's throat. She didn't consult anybody, and she was just like, we're going to fast track Ukraine into the European Union. And at least the Austrian chancellor was like, what are you talking about? How come we weren't consulted on this? So that gives you an indication as to how desperate Ursula is with Project Ukraine. And we also have reports that the EU, according to Bloomberg, the EU may unblock money that it owes to Orban in Hungary, in exchange for the release of EU funds for Ukraine. Well, the EU aid package for Ukraine, which is like 50 billion over like 4 or 5 years. The EU wants to give 50 billion to Ukraine, not all at once. It wants to give it to Ukraine over like 5 years, right? So doing Annalena Baerbock math, 50 billion over 5 years, that would be around, 14 billion every year. But yeah, Hungary's blocking that, and it looks like the EU, according to Bloomberg, the EU is ready to give Hungary either 10 billion or maybe 20 billion. This is Hungary's money, by the way, that the EU has seized. The EU is holding on to this money, but it looks like the EU may actually give this money to Hungary in exchange for Hungary approving the 50 billion over 5 years. So the EU is very, very desperate, and this would be a great move for Orban, to be quite honest, because he knows that Russia won this. He knows there's no possible way for Ukraine to win. So give them 50 billion over 5 years, whatever. He gets 10 or 20 billion in Hungary's coffers, and this weakens the EU. It's even better for Orban because this money will further weaken the EU. The more the EU invests in Ukraine, the weaker it becomes. The more this conflict drags on, the slower this conflict goes, the quicker the collapse of the European Union. So for Orban, this is like a win-win-win, if you ask me. And maybe even at the end of all of this, Hungary may even get some historic territory as well. Who knows? So let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. By the way, tomorrow Putin has his big Q&A marathon, which is always interesting to see. Usually runs for like 3-4 hours. Putin's going to get all kinds of questions, so that'll be interesting to see. Yesterday or 2 days ago, Biden, this is like a pre-clown world, Biden said, "I am a Zionist." U.S. President Joe Biden expressed his unshakable commitment to Israel's security at a White House reception event on Monday, marking the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. He also pledged continued military support for West Jerusalem and its conflict with Gaza-based Palestinian militant group Hamas. And then Biden said to the reporters, "I'm a Zionist." Okay, interesting statement from Biden. But let's do a clown world now. And CNN, they had a story yesterday with the title, "Russia has lost 87% of troops it had prior to the start of the Ukraine war, according to U.S. intelligence assessment." So at the same time that Elensky is in the U.S. trying to get $61 billion in money, CNN drops this article citing a declassified intelligence assessment document. They just happened to get their hands on a declassified document which claims that Russia has lost 87% of the troops it had prior to the start of the Ukraine war. Okay. How convenient. How convenient. If Russia has lost 87% of their troops, and everyone agrees that Russia's winning, everyone agrees now across the board that Russia has won this conflict. If Russia lost 87% of their troops, then that would mean that Ukraine has lost what? 687% of their troops? I mean, come on now. Anyway, the article actually says that Russia's running out of weapons. Yes, it goes there as well. Let's see. Russia has lost a staggering 87% of the total number of active duty ground troops it had prior to launching its invasion of Ukraine, and 2/3 of its pre-invasion tanks. A source familiar with the declassified U.S. intelligence assessment provided to Congress told CNN. The article says Russia has been able to keep its war effort going despite the heavy losses by relaxing recruitment standards and dipping into Soviet-era stockpiles of older equipment. Still, the assessment found that the war has sharply set back 15 years of Russian effort to modernize its ground forces. You know, if it's so bad for Russia, if it really is so bad and they've lost 87% of their military, then how come I don't see NATO tanks rolling towards Moscow? You only have to fight 13% of the Russian military, plus you're fighting a military that's using very, very old Soviet weapons because they don't have any more weapons left, according to this article. So how come we don't see the tanks rolling towards Moscow? I wonder why. I wonder why. Oh boy. 20 years from now, when all of this is over and Ukraine is, if there is a Ukraine, it's part of the Ruski Mir and it's happy and it's peaceful and everyone's happy to be back into the Ruski Mir, or I don't know, or Ukraine is part of the Russian Federation. I don't know. Whatever happens, 20 years from now, when all of this is over, the neocons and the collective West media, CNN, they're gonna still be talking about how Russia is running out of weapons. 20 years from now, we're gonna get stories. Russia's running out of weapons. I'm telling you, they're running out of weapons. Everyone's gonna be like, that was like 20 years ago that we were talking about that stuff. Oh boy. Nonsense, man. It's just all nonsense. All right, everybody, that's the video. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and the Twitter X, and go to the Duran shop. 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. I think I'm wearing my Hungry long sleeve t-shirt. Take care.